Ooh, what's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another session of Coffee and Martial Arts. Salud, salud, salud. Cheers. Oh, yes, sir. Coffee is amazing this morning, and so is our guest. We have a VIP guest today. Yes, sir. But before we go with him, let me just say, you know me, I like to say the proper announcements every day. Yes, sir. Uh, I just want to remind you that we are going live through our Facebook page, Master Frank's Auto Kinetic Dragon. So please like the page, follow us, share it with everybody, like and share this video. If you like, this transmissions, this live transmissions, please share it with your friends. And remember, if you don't like it, share it with your enemy, and I will bug the out of them. Yes, I will. Yes, okay. I will make their lives miserable, but please share the video. Thank you so much. Okay. Also, we are going live through the Internacional with a C Hall of Fame of Argentina. See, because it's in Espanol. It's a nice group of martial artists doing their thing down in South America, down in Argentina for the world. They're doing a good job. Master Juan Martín Álvarez, saludos, and all their people. This is the cover of Internacional Hall of Fame of the month. Okay, and that's my article. And that's last month, sorry, but this is the cover of this month, okay, of March. Okay, so we're also going live through our YouTube channel, okay, the Kinetic Dragon channel. So like, subscribe to the channel, and click on the little bell so you get notified every time we go live. Yes, sir. Okay, so today, like I said, we have an amazing guest. So remember to leave your comments, ask your questions, say hello, and just be respectful and polite, and we'll put all the comments here on screen for you, because this is for you, okay? And share it so we can get to more people and share this positive message of the martial arts. Okay, so that's it for today. Announcements. Okay, so today, like I said, we have an amazing guest, okay? Master Paul Casey. Right, yeah, he's the CEO of the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame. He's been in the martial arts for almost 44 years. He was a direct student of the Pasadena studio of the late Grandmaster Frank Trejo. Big salute to Big Frank. And he also, of course, a student of Mr. Parker, right? He got his black belt back in 1981, and he's been doing his thing for Kempo ever since. Right? But let me not spoil this for you. Let's bring the man of the hour. Let's bring him in. Let's welcome Master Paul Casey. Hello, sir.
Hello, Frank. It's nice to meet you. Thank you very much for having me on your show today. It's truly an honor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Thank you for being here. It's an honor. But before we go to our questions, let me bring some of the people comments here. We already have people saying hello. Sifu, Jose Miguel Morales, greeting to you both from Valparaiso, Chile. I will meet Mr. Casey next June. Nice.
Yeah, just about 2 months there, Juan. I'm so glad. I'm excited to see that Jose is going to be there, and it's going to be a great night.
Amazing. Great.
He's one of actually this year's 2022 Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame inductees.
Wow. Yes, he mentioned it. He's been on the show before, and yeah, he's a good friend. Excelente. Great. International Hall of Fame. Say, salud, maestros. Ernesto Colbrenner, Casa de la Cultura, Culture House, Chinese, Santa Fe, Argentina. A hug from the heart. Gracias.
Hello, it's good to meet you.
Maestro Joe Ribello, glad to check this out. Kenpo greetings to both of you.
Kenpo Joe, he's one of the best. Great historian. I always have him on my broadcast because he brings the reality of the facts and the background of a lot of our Kenpo history, which is important for us to know.
Yes, agree. Great. Thank you. Maestro Bagelis Drosos, Master Frank, hello from Athens, Greece.
Hello, our friends from Greece. I hope you can come to Las Vegas in the near future.
Says salute, Master Paul Casey.
Thank you very much.
Jimmy Aguilar Yepes, saludos, professor. I hope you're doing fine. Thank you. Salud. Okay, that's it for comments right now. But like I said, I just wanted to thank you very much for accepting the invitation. It's an honor to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
I was looking forward for this. And before we get really into it, I wanted to ask you the question that I ask everybody that comes in for the first time. Can you share a little bit? I know we don't have enough time, but just a little bit brief background of how you started into the martial arts and how you got to where you're at today, please.
Well, I was inspired by obviously television, movies, and whatnot. Big fan, like most people, of the martial arts cinema. People like Bruce Lee or the Kung Fu TV series, or celebrities that practice the martial arts. And I lived in the foothills up in La Crescenta, and I went to the local YMCA because it was close. And when you don't know anything about the martial arts, you just go to the places that are in the proximity of your home. And they had a judo class taught there. And for about a month, I learned how to fall and roll. And I finally turned to the instructor and said, I already know how to do that. I'm getting punched. So I'm falling and rolling. So we got to do something more than that. So then I went down to a Shotokan school down in Glendale. It took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get there. And again, it was very rigid. And I thought, it's going to take a long time here. This is not really what I'm seeing. I wanted to be able to protect myself. I ended up at a Kempo school. And the student that was teaching, Steve Aaron, was a direct first generation student of Ed Parker, founding Grandmaster. So I learned the basics there, but his version of Kempo was an abbreviated version of what they taught in Pasadena. I went to a karate tournament, which I wanted to do. I got my butt whooped by a good friend of mine, Casey Jones, the BKF. He blitzed right through me. And I met Frank Trejo, who pulled me aside and said, listen, I know your teacher. He was one of my teachers. You have skill, but do you know why you lost? And I said, yeah, he kicked my butt. He goes, he got mad. He goes, no, that's not it. There are two rules in this world. There says, if you're not, you have to be right in the head first before you can get in the ring. If you're not right here, you don't get in the ring. And it stuck with me. And I got to tell you, Frank, I said, wow, he took an interest. I also met Ed Parker that day, so that really helped. So about a month later, I went to Pasadena and I sat down there for about an hour with him. He grilled me. He really challenged me and asked me why I wanted to be there when I was with another teacher. And I said, I'm not caring about rank. I'm more about defending myself and to learning how to really have the confidence that you were talking about. And so he put me on the mat and he grabbed my belt and he said, I will recognize your rank. He yanked it over to the left side. And a horse standing says, you will do three things. You will respect the school, you will respect this mat, and you will respect the patch. And if you can't do that, you got to leave. And I said, sir, I'll take the belt off. I don't really care. So he proceeded to work me out for a hour and worked me to the death. And as he left the mat, he said to one of my other fellow friends that we tested for black, John Murillo, he says, let's see if he comes back. Frank, I heard that. And I said, the challenge is on. I'm back. And sure enough, the next day I came back and John says, he's back. And Frank goes, what? He's back. And so I never left. I met Ed Parker. I met every great Kempoist and martial artist in that school in Pasadena. Nice. And I attribute that to Frank Trejo taking the interest in me, a young martial artist, and instill in me confidence. And I love him dearly for that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. We have more people saying hello. Let's see. Maestro Omar Diaz del Canto. Salud from Chile.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Great. Kenpo Guy Productions. I found it. Hello, Paul and Frank.
Yes. Kenpo Guy Productions is my good friend, Master Todd Durgan, one of the finest Kempoists and a brilliant scholar when it comes to the martial. I really admire him. He's been on my show many, many times. Great insight.
Thank you, Mr. Durgan. Hello, sir. Maestro Edward Chavez. Hello from Arizona. Thank you for sharing, sir.
Hello, Edward. How are you doing, sir? How's Arizona? Great state. Great state.
Let's see. Maestro Juan Martin Alvarez. Salud, maestros from Argentina. Big hug. Gracias.
Hello, Juan. How you doing?
Alberto Kempo, salute from Lanzarote.
Hello, Alberto. How are you, sir?
Okay, let's see. We have Mr. Seabrook Martial Arts Academy. Great to see Paul Casey on here. A great martial artist, Kempoist, and most all an amazing human being. Love that guy.
Thank you, Jamie. He's one of the best. Yeah, I can always count on him to come in and give me the truth. And he's also fun to listen to. He's got great stories.
Nice. Mr. Ryan Demarest says, what are your thoughts on blending Kempo with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Mine or yours?
This is your show, sir. You're the guest.
Mr. Parker was a forward-thinking man. Kempo was an evolution. It continues to evolve. Parker came from a background of judo, which incorporated jiu-jitsu. All right. Then we added the striking elements of it. Parker was a Golden Glove boxing champion in Hawaii. His father was a commissioner. So he saw the importance of combining. He didn't limit himself. Remember, Kempo is the law of the fist. However, Mr. Parker's belief is that if you can stay off the ground, it's a good thing. But if you have to go there, then you get it over with quickly. Because usually in these situations, most people practice on maybe one opponent. We have to look at multiple assailants. And if you're on the ground, then you're giving them the opportunity. I'm for it. I believe you should embrace that, expand your knowledge. And I truly think that the jiu-jitsu, aspect of the art is very important. But we do have that. If you really to break down the Kempo system, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu in there.
Okay, agreed. Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Juan Rodriguez says, greetings from Laredo, Texas. Could not stay for the interview, but will watch it afterwards. Also, hello to Master Casey. Watch his podcast on his YouTube channel.
Hello, Juan. Thank you so much. I hope that later on that we give you some information that you can take back. And I hope that you can come out to Las Vegas sometime for one of our events.
Mr. Ribello said, I heard you say, what? He's back, and heard Mr. Trejo. Thank you for that.
I liked Joe. He's great. He's a really good. It's so proficient in so many aspects of the martial arts.
Yes. Okay, so we can continue with the comment, but we will. But first, I wanted to ask, how was it back in those days training at the Pasadena? The where it all began, sort of type of school. A lot of us new generation or newer generation Kempoists didn't get the chance to meet Mr. Parker or to be in that, we could say, like the golden era of Kempo. So how was it back then?
Pasadena was the Mecca, and everybody came there to see Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Those that knew him very well, he always said, call me Ed. He asked me to call him Ed. I never did. I followed Frank's lead, and to the day, the last time I saw Mr. Parker to the first time I met him, it was always Mr. Parker. And I'll say this real briefly. It was at the Vagabond in 90. And the beautiful thing about Kempo is that we'd all come together. It was like a reunion. It was like we've set aside our differences and we were just glad to see each other. And what I call perfect moments. And I was out by the pool. I came to that Friday night, 90. And Frank said to me, he goes, Pablo. When it was good, it was always Pablo. When it wasn't, it was Paul. So I'll qualify things, okay? And they go back and see the old man. And that was a term of endearment. It wasn't meant to be disrespectful. And so I went back there, and he was sitting, and he looked very tired. But as soon as I walked in, he stood up and goes, Paul, it's all good to see you. Come in. And he then threw everybody out. And I mean, we're talking seniors that are working his tournament. Ron Chappelle was in charge, and he cleared the room. And for about 15 plus 20 minutes, I sat and talked with Ed Parker. And the beautiful thing about Ed Parker was his Hawaiian spirit. Here he is, one of the most famous martial artists, the one that created the careers, gave the opportunities to Chuck Norris, Joe Louis, and Bruce Lee. They all got their start with Ed Parker in the internationals. And they were on a first name basis with him. And to the day they met him, to the day he passed, great affection. He shared that Hawaiian spirit of love and caring. And he'd always ask about you. How are you doing? What you're going to be, blah, blah, blah. He asked me if I was going to compete. I won many times at tournaments that he was sponsoring, and he gave me the trophies, and I proudly still have them here. won at the internationals twice. And so the Pasadena school, Frank Trejo was no nonsense. Okay. He came up from the barrio. He was a tough guy. He had brothers that went different paths than him. But he always said to me, if it wasn't for Ed Parker, I don't think I would be alive. Frank Trejo was embodied. He had a father figure, and that was Mr. Parker. And Parker was very understanding and compassionate. He would come into the school and he would observe. Sometimes he would do a demonstration. He would sit and watch. He'd go into his office. I was fortunate enough to go to his house with Frank, and other times I'd ate at his house. I did seminars with him. The scariest thing I ever did was not being on the mat with him, was to ride in the car with him. Anybody knows, you'll know what I'm talking about. But no, he was genuine. And the school had such a camaraderie. And when we got on the mat, it was all business. We really did. We wanted to really do a great job. I remember I was getting ready with Frank. I was brown belt at the point, first brown to be exact. And he was honing me because he wanted me to test for black, but I didn't know this. And Parker comes into his daily routine. He was in the office. And there was a big window there, and he could look out on the mat.
Right.
And Frank was making me go through and he was not lightening up either. He says, hit me. And I'm going, and I'm like, because we use control. I mean, we're hitting, but we got control, right? And I'm smacking down on Frank Trejo. And Frank, he's a full contact fighter. And I'm trying not to hit him in something I'm going to hurt him. And I'm like, finally, I'm beating down on him. And Trejo said to me afterward, he said, you did good. The old man's watching you. He's like, he's on the phone. He's like, he's watching this whole thing. At the end, he goes, he leaves. And he goes, hey, Frank, I'm leaving. Hey, Kissy, you're doing good. You're doing good. He left. And Frank goes to me, the old man saw you. And I wanted to prove to him how good you were. And that's the way it was there. We all pushed each other. There was great martial arts that all came in there. Friday nights was the old school. It was the original guys. Roger Meadows, Jim Faria, Phil Conte, Kenny Johnson, you name it, they all showed up. Phil Conte. And I went in there and sat with them, and they would do a class just like they used to do in the late 60s and early 70s with calisthenics. And then we'd run the lines. And then after we'd go down to Shakey's and have pizza and Cokes and whatever. And, that was it. With Frank, on the other hand, we go down to El Rancho and have the tequila. There's some fun stories there. But my favorite guys, Steve Orsino, John Murillo, Paul Gerard, they were there. And we were like brothers. We were the first four. And that's what we were lucky. We were Frank's first four. And Parker signaled us out for that. And, he was like the father figure for everybody. So if you got a chance to meet him, you were very blessed. If you didn't get a chance to meet him, but you knew Frank Trejo, or you trained with somebody that else went with him, Brian Hawkins, a Dave Menifee, AC Rainey, a Dave Hebler, a Chuck Sullivan. Chuck Sullivan is incredible. He is Danny Inosanto. I was with him last weekend, and we spent almost 3 hours. And Inosanto said, Chuck, we've 60 years, and he ran upstairs like a little kid and got his study plan with that Chuck had taught him. He wrote all these notes, the teacher of that Danny Inosanto. And Danny was with Bruce from 64 till he died in 73. And he said, the things you taught me, which were taught by Ed Parker, I taught Bruce. And Bruce loved the footwork and all that. He just changed the names. And he looked at Chuck, and my little guy was there too, and my little 7-year-old. And he just got his yellow belt, which was signed by Ed Parker many, many years ago. And Georgie got that. And the cool thing about it was that Danny looked at him. There's Chuck Sullivan. What a great guy. He's an amazing man. He said, Chuck, you're a genius. And Bruce and you would have been the best of friends. There's no doubt. And I'm lucky. I get to call Chuck sort of my Kempo dad. He's just, he's an amazing man. So any of those people you get to meet, that are Kempo guys like Danny Ridardi and Chuck Sullivan, that's from Bob White last weekend when we did the elevation of Bob Mitchell. You used to train with Bob White. You're actually learning from Ed Parker. Every one of those are his proteges. Right. Anybody that studied at Pasadena that shows the Kempo system, You were a protege of Ed Parker. He tailored the system. Yeah, that's a long time ago. That's at the Flores Brothers in Oxnard. And I don't know why be honest with you, I don't know why I'm wearing a white gi top, to be honest with you. I'm standing out. I should be wearing a black, but I was white. And in the back against the wall, that was Trejo. Against behind Mr. Parker, he's wearing his all frayed up black belt there. Ed Parker was great. He was a genuine human being. He cared a lot about people. And he made it about family.
Nice. There's another picture. This one. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the Pasadena school when we tested in 81. And going from left to right, that's Paul Dye, Senior Master of the Arts. He just received his 10th last year. Behind him is Ron Chappelle. He's a senior master, but he teaches sub-level 4. He's a martial scientist now. That's how he looks at it. Next to him is Senior Master of the Arts, Lee Wedlick, one of the greats of Kempo. He trained with the last 12 years with Ed Parker. I met him in Pasadena as a brown belt. Next to him is Roger Meadows. He was the legal representative for Mr. Parker, his personal attorney. He was a 10th degree as well. Behind him is Paul Mills. There's Mr. Parker with the white hair. Look how happy, smiling he is. You could tell he was proud of us. Next to him is Bernie Bernheim. Then you have Jim Faria. He's a senior master of the arts. Next to him, I'm not sure of his name. I can't remember at the time. But the gentleman in the white gi is Louis Solis. He's a 10th degree. He trained in Pasadena from 59-60, and he received his black belt in 64. He worked out with Bruce Lee for a long time. And Bruce wanted him to go. John Conway Sr. Love Mr. Conway. He was a representative of the Kenpo, International Kenpo Karate Association in Ireland. And then to him is a gentleman from Mexico. I'm not sure his name. Behind him is Phil Conti. He's got the mustache. Ed Busner in front of him. Behind him is Ken Johnson. And the person whose face is cut off is Frank Trejo. So that's the senior lineup. That's the who's who of Ed Parker. Those were all personally chosen to be there. And then below is, you see in the bottom right is John Conway. Next to him is in black is Steve Morcino. There's myself behind the young lady in the white. Next to me is Fudd. There's Bud. The gentleman in the front, I don't know who that is. Rudy, Frank, Fudd, and then Murillo is at the far end, kneeling, and below him sitting is Paul Gerard. And those are all the guys that are first generation out of Pasadena.
Nice. That's amazing. Okay, let me see. We have more people saying hello. Let me bring the comments. Okay. Guru Catherine Sumter says, hello, Master Frank and Master Paul. Cheers from all of us at CCDP Worldwide in Sequim, Washington. The challenge was on when he said, let's see if he comes back. Love that.
That's true. Hey, Catherine, thank you so much. Yeah, I took that challenge because he took the time after I got my butt whooped. I was really dejected. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing here? Because this Casey came in. The BKF was so focused on fighting, and they called it the California Blitz, and they would come at you like that, and it just was so foreign to me. And Trejo looked at me and he said, you have talent. Needless to say, I met Mr. Parker an hour later, and he walked right up to me. I was by myself at the judge's table. I don't even know why he did this, but he came up to me. He said, hi, I'm Ed Parker. He said, what's your name? I said, Paul Casey. He says, I know you're an instructor. He's one of my first black belts. He said, you're going to compete today. And I said, oh, yeah, yes, sir. You'll do well. You'll do good. I just got to tell you, Frank, I didn't have the heart to tell him I just got beat. I didn't want to ruin my first impression with Ed Parker. I mean, it's like, wow, it's like meeting Elvis Presley and I don't know a record or something, Yeah, right. I love your records. Your movies are great. I don't know them, but you're great, So anyway, and that was the same thing with I met. But yeah, it was a great experience. That's the thing about Kempo. It is a continual process. Continuous. That's what Parker was all about. Making you think, evolve, tailor the system to you. If you get any of his books, like you go and you look at Infinite Insights, I swear by this stuff. I go through 1 through 5. I use it. I talk about stuff like the Zen of Kempo, his Kempo book. I'll use Sun Tzu's The Art of War, or I'll use the Tao Te Ching, or I'll go the Book of 5 Rings. They're all inspired Ed Parker, because Parker had a philosophy and he also had psychology degrees. And you understand the mind. And therefore you could help that. And he wanted you not to be stagnant. Kempo is evolving. So that question about would you incorporate BJJ? Sure. But you got to remember the you look at your, you just got to look at the environment, your settings, the people that is the ground hard? Do you really want to go to the ground? Is it soft? Is it wet? Do you really want to kick up high? I remember one time I was in Pasadena before I became I was a black belt. Yeah, I was a black belt. And I was doing my stuff, and Frank was big on kicking. He loved to be able to kick high and use those things. And he did it in tournaments. And David Lee Roth was there. And Frank had him watch me. And remember, I'm a protege of Frank Trejo, so I'm going to do what Frank does. And Roth is watching. He's the lead singer for Van Halen. He goes, and after watching it, he said to Trejo, he says, I like what he's doing. Can you teach me that? And Trejo said, yeah, just come to the show tonight. You can see Paul do all that junk around on stage. Okay. And Roth came to see it. And then I left the mat and I went into the office, and Parker was there. And Parker gave me one of his famous quotes. He says, hey, Paul, if you want to kick him in the head, kick him in the groin first. The head will go down there. Knowing he was right, But anyway, you always learn in Kempo. So, there's a picture of me. Mr. Parker used to come to the shows, and I would sing all the Presley stuff and everything, and he was great. I'm telling you, one of the greatest inspirations for me was to meet Ed Parker.
Let's see, we have
here's me and Mr. Trejo. Yeah, that's in Pasadena. We had fun. Frank was the best. If you got to know Frank Trejo, even for just a little bit, you were better off in life. Because he was like a child.
Yes.
And he was fiercely loyal to you. He wouldn't let you down. He said, he told me this once. And sadly, there was a tragedy. One of the guys I trained with, Leo, was out of Montebello. He was an incredible young talent. We were both brown belts, but he was so far ahead of me in the fighting. And Frank let me work with him. And he said, I'm going to teach. He says, he's my protege. He's like a young me. And we worked out for about 6 months. And then I walked in, I saw Frank in the office, and I said, what's wrong? And he was really upset. His eyes were red and bloodshot, and he had been crying. And he said, Pablo, Leo died. I said, Leo died? How do you die like at 18, 19 years old? I mean, was it a car accident? Whatever. And it was tragedy. He committed suicide because of a young lady that he had a baby with, and she rejected him. But the story doesn't end there. Trejo looked at me and says, I could have done more. I should have been more of a mentor. I should have looked after him. Should have talked more with him. I got caught up in something that wasn't. And I think at that point, Frank became a life coach. He looked at me and said, listen, he said, Pablo, he says, if you got a problem, if there's something bothering you, you tell me. Smart ass Paul says, well, you don't have to worry. I got no girlfriends. Wrong answer. He got so mad. His eyes fired up. He says, listen, man, I'm serious. I said, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean. He said, listen, no one will ever hurt you. I'll always protect you. I'll help you. And that was the way he had a relationship with all the guys I knew, with Paul Gerard and John Murillo, who was with him longer than me, and Steve Orsino. And he treated us like his sons. He was very good. And when we tested for black that day in 81, after it was all done, he said to me, he goes, Pablo, you did me proud. The old man was so impressed with you. Because when we got done to line up, Mr. Parker signaled me out as impressed me in the testing board. And that's when Frank pulled me aside and said, man, thank you. No, it's because of Frank Trejo. When you're inspired to do something, you will do it. You can overcome any challenge. Just don't quit. Don't let that happen here. I never forgot that lesson. He said that's when he told me I was his Kempo son. So I thought, hey, me and the other guys were there. And it wasn't until later that Edmund Jr. Parker, when we were talking at Dragon's Fest, I said, can you tell me sum up Frank? He says, I can't do that. There's too much there. I love Frank very dearly. Ed Parker Jr. is an amazing, talented man in his own right. He truly is. I really think the world of him.
I agree.
And if anybody's interested, please contact him. He will do incredible work for you if you need art. And he said to me, because I had to speak in front of all these people. They were talking about Jun Rhee and all these people that passed. He said, I'll say this much. He was my Kempo brother, and he was my father's Kempo son. And when he said that, I finally realized what it meant to be called Frank Trejo's Kempo son.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, we have Mr. Durgan says, Mr. Casey, too kind. Pleasure to see you, Mr. Soto. Love this interview. Thank you.
He's one of the best. He's one of my favorite guys. He really is a very talented man. You know,
yeah.
If
you're watching, sir, you're on my list. Please be on the show.
Oh, he would be a great asset to you. I mean, this guy, he comes on and we dissect things that we're out in the hemisphere with stuff. And it's like, whoa. But that's Ed Parker, though. The challenge of where we're at. And he's one of the best ones that you'll ever get a chance to talk to.
Nice. John H. Cree, greetings from the UK.
How you doing, mate? It's nice to see you, John. How are you? We have some of your friends coming over this year for the Hall of Fame.
Nice, nice. Maestro Fabio Bevilacqua, saludos, maestros from Tenerife, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate very much.
Thank you, sir. Julie Evans. Hello, Master Soto and Master Paul Casey. Thank you for this. I had the pleasure of finally honoring Master Parker at his gravesite recently after practicing Kempo for 20 plus years. Nice.
It's a very, it's beautiful, tranquil there on the side of, it's located Forest Lawn, Glendale, and it's on the side of the hill, and you're overlooking Glendale, California toward Los Angeles, and it's peaceful. And there's a funny story there on the 25th anniversary, 6 years ago. I went there with, I talked to Darlene Parker and her husband, Nalu, and I got John, and we picked up Frank. Now, I was in Japan at the time, Mr. Parker's passing. Actually, he had said to me to come and visit him after the internationals in 90. And he said, we'll go eat. And that was Mr. Parker's way of getting together with you. If you wanted to break bread with you, it was a pretty impressive thing to spend quality time. I had eaten with him before, but with many people. And he asked me to do that. And I asked Chappelle about that, Dr. Chappelle, who I have great respect for. He's a wonderful guy. And you should have him on as well. And he said, I don't know what he wanted to talk to you, but it was very important. And so I never got that chance. So Frank and everybody was at the funeral of Mr. Parker. And so we went to visit on the 25th anniversary, and we set up this whole display. And you go on our page, on the Hall of Fame page, you'll find those pictures in the gravesite. And that's a really wonderful thing that she went to do. And but it was in December, so it was wet, and the ground was soggy, and he's on an incline. And Frank's in a wheelchair, mind you, because he had lost his legs, and he had blindness in the one eye and one of his hands. So we rode over from the nursing home that he was in with Frank, and it was funny as hell. He said, he's going, we're driving. He starts to tell the true story about how he felt about Ed Parker. And he opened up, listen, ladies and gentlemen, he opened up his heart, and you couldn't have heard a more heartfelt, warm connection between two people. This man loved that other person who was his father. He was more than his Kempo father. He wasn't a teacher. He was just truly somebody that truly cared a lot about him. And when we were running over there, he opened up his heart. And then when we got there, we parked on the side to the, the incline of where the grave is. It's about 20 feet out, maybe 25. And so Nalu, who's a big, strong Hawaiian, I said, you got to hold on to the wheelchair. Because if you let it go, we're gonna have to dig another hole. Frank's like, no, don't let go of me, man. What are you doing? And John is driving it, but it's hard to drive something when it's in mud. And foolish Paul, don't worry, I'll save you, Frank. This is the wrong place to be. I'm on the bottom half of holding up the wheelchair on the side as we go to the. All I heard Frank was complaining for like 25, 30 seconds. I finally said, if you don't shut up, we're going to let go. And you're going to go down. He goes, oh, he says, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You wouldn't do that to me. I said, be quiet. We got him over there and we made sure that John didn't let go of the chair. And Darlene was she was so beautiful. She had her camera out and she's never released this. And there's some pictures there. And she videotaped Frank speaking to Mr. Parker. And he said, Mr. Parker, God, this was so moving. He said, Mr. Parker, it's 25 years, but it seems like it was just yesterday. I miss you so much. I think, and he just opened up. The floodgates open up, and he made us all get emotional. And I could feel his pain, but also the beautiful thing was that I felt his love for a man that really cared about him. And I have that feeling for Frank, as other students that know Frank Trejo, knew Frank Trejo, John Conway Jr. cared a lot about Frank, John Murillo. And there's other people around the country that had the chance, but you really spent some quality time with him outside of being on the mat. That was a genuine human being.
Yes, agree. Carlos Villarroel, boa tarde, Big Master. How you doing? Salute to the master guest from Manaus, Brazil. Bom
Hello,
café.
Carlos. Salud.
Obrigado, maestro. Os. Okay. Mr. Rubello says, thank you for memories of Frank Trejo. So blessed to have known him.
Yeah, he actually trained with Frank on the East Coast. Joe Rubello is a real great source of history. If you get a chance, talk to him. He's always accommodating. He will actually spend quality time. He'll tell you stories about him and Ed Parker and other masters in the other systems as well.
Yeah, he's been on the show on several occasions. Yes.
But don't have him back if he's already been on. You got to get past him. Sorry, Joe. Kempo Joe.
Let's see. Max Dojo Diamond Bar says, morning, Mr. Soto and Mr. Casey. That's Mr. Congaika, of course. Great information. And Mr. Trejo was a great man, teacher, friend, and storyteller. Saludo from California, Maestro Larry Congaika.
Larry is I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people you'll meet. He's a real deal. Larry is a real deal. I mean, what a great person. Wonderful wife. One of the times he actually went out of his way at Dragon Fest to come over to say hello to me and spend some time. And he's one of the good guys. And if you get a chance to spend some time with Larry ever, please go and visit him. You will not regret that.
Agree. Yes. Mr. Rubello asks, how did you first get involved in portraying Elvis? Yeah, that's a good question.
The Elvis story. Okay, that is in my background. As a little boy, I used to watch a lot of TV on Saturdays. And I grew up watching like the Lone Ranger and Superman, and I didn't know that these shows were like 20 years old. So I just thought, yeah, hey, they're great. And then the Elvis Presley marathons. And my mother went and she was taught, oh, Elvis this and Elvis that. And I went and saw Elvis in the 70s. My mom, and it was funny because my mother lost her mind. They're my mom, and they're like, real, they're throwing bras, and I go, what the hell this guy's singing? So I really dug his image. I thought what a cool look. He had the rings, he had the clothes, he had all the confidence, actually, the most important thing. So I got talked into doing impressions, and I did an impression of Elvis once. And it was after my parents, we were watching Aloha from Hawaii live. That was in 73. I did, like I said, my dad was a 7-time world champion or classical singer in classical music arias. So he didn't really think too much, but he understood the commercial. The gi you saw there that's Mr. Parker's actual uniform that he wore. And the other one is the Aloha from Hawaii uniform made by the same people that made Elvis's. And Elvis and I are the same height and weight as he was back in that era. So It was easy. So I did voiceover for a couple of TV shows and then some movies. And then I started opening for people, and I did rockabilly. I like the early stuff. And then later it just evolved into, can you do the jumpsuit thing? And sadly, when that happened, Elvis had died and he didn't look all that great at that point. So I sort of thought, well, maybe we should hone it. So I got to do that, and my favorite thing was that I dug like that picture of him and Mr. Parker. They did that. That was over in West LA. I believe that it might have been in Memphis. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to it. But that's how I got into it. And then I got asked to do some shows. And I would, like I said, I worked for the Palomino Club in North Hollywood for 5 years, opening for everybody from Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and Jerry Lee Lewis, and country acts and stuff. And then I got talked into doing something for a show in Las Vegas called Legends in Concert. I was with him for 5.5 years. I was twice Entertainer of the Year for the show. And then I went to Germany, and I was there for 5 years. And I did Elvis, the musical.
Wow.
And I worked with all of his entourage. I would have
Wow.
Inspirations, the Memphis Mafia. We did it for years. We played it thousands and thousands of people, and they would come to see the show, and we would recreate it with Elvis on the back behind me. I've worked with Dave Hebler. He's a good friend. By the way, a shout out. He's an amazing guy. He's got a great new book came out that he just wrote, the Bodyguard book. It's great. Personally, a great guy. You have Steve Herring there. You have Danny Inosanto. The who's who is in the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame. That's Steve Herring. Wonderful, wonderful man. He was amazing. He worked out with Presley. Funny stories. His wife is in our Hall of Fame. And this year we have Tracy is coming in, one of the students out of there, and she'll be coming in. That's going to be wonderful. And so that's how it all is. And I work with these guys, and one thing led to another. And then I wrote songs for the city, and I had a little girl and a little boy. And my daughter was a child with special needs, and she taught me a whole new direction.
Okay.
She was very, very fragile. She passed away 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's all right. It's okay. She still inspires me. And what it does, it's a reality check for you guys out there watching. You can be the baddest dude in the world, but if you can stop a bullet that's shot in your face, I'm impressed. It didn't stop. Superman didn't do that. He ended up dead. The most important thing is perfect moments. Right now, this with you and your guest, this is a perfect moment. So there's no perfect live person or thing, but there are perfect moments. Embrace this moment. Make it yours. You can look at the past and reflect on it, and that's great. If you want to look at the future and you want that to happen, then bring that moment into this moment now. Live in this moment. Don't think about what's going to happen tomorrow or next week. Don't put that the emphasis. Put the emphasis on now to make that moment come, and it will be there for you. And that's truly the essence of what I learned from my little girl.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank
God bless her. God bless you, sir. Wow. Okay, we have more people saying hello. Jaime Jerez, salud, maestro, from Concepcion, Chile.
Oh, Jaime, how you doing, sir?
Mr. Willie Kelly says, nice to hear the stories, Paul. Met Frank once in Madrid. Lovely time. It was a pleasure to meet him, as Frank was a legend in my book.
He's a legend in many. Actually, I hope that you met him.
Yep.
Did he play the guitar?
Yep.
Because we used to have jam sessions in the Pasadena school after hours.
Wow.
And that was the party began. And only on an occasion did we get caught by Mr. Parker. So you figure. But Parker was great. He loved it. And if he had his ukulele there, he would have played with us. One of the greatest honors I ever had for his 85th birthday back about 6 years ago in Costa Mesa, Bob White hosted at the country club a celebration. The Parker family all the daughters were there. And a lot of my favorite people, Joe Demick was there. Charlie Gonzalez was there. And others as well. I mean, you can see those pictures. And I got to sing I'll Remember You to a video collage for the length of the song. We had worked it out, me and Darlene. And I had a 4-string ukulele that I had brought. And, I'm playing it. And Beth said, no, we want you to play our father's ukulele.
Wow.
And I got to play Mr. Parker's freaking ukulele. And I'm thinking,
what an honor.
If you want to have pressure on you, it's one thing to do 5 swords or do a form, right? I can nail that, right? Because I know how to do that. But I'm in front of a group of people, about 100 people. And I'm sitting there and I got to play Mr. Parker. And it was absolutely wonderful. I felt Mr. Parker's spirit. I really did.
Beautiful.
And it was just, What can I say? It was magical.
Wow. Wow. Julie says, thank you. What a great story. Love Master Trejo.
He probably loved you too, Julie. He loved all the ladies.
Mr. Rebello says,
Rolling on the floor, laugh my ass off. Thanks, Paul. You're a funny guy, Joseph.
Roberto Quintana, salud.
Hello, Roberto.
Gonzalo says, salud to both of you maestros from Osorno, Chile. Roberto Quintana said, salud maestros, blessings to all of you from Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, wow. Oh, wow. That's great.
Nice. Thank you. Gracias. Saludos, maestro. Mr. Durgan says, I got a signed photo from Sonny West at one of Paul's shows in Vegas. Pretty cool. Wow, I bet. Wow.
Yeah, Sonny and I became very close friends. We worked together for almost 6 years. And it was so insightful because he was so genuine. Talking to him, you can understand the Southern hospitality and what a talented man. I mean, he was an actor. He gave up everything in his life to be with Elvis Presley for all those years since Elvis came out in 1960. He was with him from his cousin was Red.
Right.
And I was very lucky to work with those guys. And Sonny, he used to say to me, he would tell me stories as if I was there. You know, he would like recite, oh, when we did this and we did that. And I said, oh, that's exciting. And then I finally had a crush. Sonny, I wasn't there. Oh, well, you don't understand. Being with you makes me feel I'm 35 again. And the only guy better than you was the guy that I loved the most that was out of Memphis. I thought, wow.
Wow.
Nice compliment, but nobody's as good as Elvis Presley. He's the best. He was Elvis. Ed Parker is Ed Parker. And if we are influenced and be the best that we can be within ourselves,
yes,
which is there, and it's within every one of us, then we'll be great too.
Yes. Julie says, so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Julie. But I have a little guide now. Hey, Alfred, one of my favorite guys. Alfred's down in the South Florida area. He's such a great talent. He's just Kempo. He has some JKD in him. He does jiu-jitsu. I mean, he is the only thing that's bigger than him is him as a human being. He is an incredible, talented man, and he's genuine. He's got a great kids. He's just a wonderful human being. If you get a chance to be down in Florida, look him up. You will not be disappointed.
He says, what's up, my brother?
Well, we're just working it out through here. I hope that you can come out you should come out to Vegas in June and bring your wife, and I think you'd have a great time. She'll love you for that. I've never met a woman that doesn't like to go to Vegas. You're welcome, Alfred.
Mr. Willie Kelly says, no, he had no guitar, just a can of beer.
But he'd sing to you anyway. Frank he loves singing. He taught me some Spanish. He taught me, I swallowed the worm down in Ensenada with him, learning how to sing Angel Baby. Angel baby, my angel baby. Ooh. Taught me how to sing that song. And it's only 4 chords. Rosie and the Originals.
Wow. Cool. Okay. We only have like 10 minutes left. So I wanted to ask you about the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame.
Sure.
You can, please.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick synopsis on it. In the latter part of Frank's life, his health was deteriorating quickly. He had diabetes, and it was irreversible. You couldn't stop it. That was basically like lifestyle and such, but he was pre-diagnosed with it. So the number one thing that you have to understand, and is a good lesson, is take care of yourself now, because it will show up later if you don't. And what I did was I learned from him to eat well, exercise, and do the right things. Okay. So his health was starting to fail. He was hospitalized. He was in a nursing home, and it really hurt him because he couldn't be doing what he wanted to do, which for the most part would be, was the fact that he liked to teach. He wanted to always be a teacher.
Right.
So in 2014, my daughter was very sick, but I would go down to see Frank on a regular basis. I was doing the Hall of Fame. I'd drive down, I'd race down for the day, 4 hours down from Nevada down to California to see him, see my other people I need, and come back. And I finally came to him. I said, Frank, I want to create something different. I want your help. He goes, what is that? I said, I want to create this thing called the Kenpo Karate Hall of Fame. He looked at me and go, what do you mean, like a Hall of Fame? Why do we need a Hall of Fame? I said, to recognize the contributions of people in our martial arts. And he said, okay, so tell me more about it. So the people that are chosen by their peers. In other words, people that are in the Hall of Fame. You don't buy in. You can't pay to get in. It's like we celebrate your birthday. You are a family member, and you're all these people that are collectively chosen on that date for that year are same day birthday. Okay. Frank said, okay. And I said, I don't want you to be a footnote. Look, people don't remember Tom Kelly. They don't remember a lot of people. They're starting to forget who Ed Parker is.
Yes.
I don't want them to forget about Frank Trejo.
Yes.
So Frank personally chose the first 10 people that were in the Hall of Fame in 2015. That was in 2014 he did this. So he picked it up. We picked it up to be around the same time the Internationals in August. He picked them, and they were people like Richard Huckplanis, Bob White, Danny Ridardi, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You had all these people, and you had Mike Pick. I'm trying to think who else was there. There's a lot. The lists are all put on. At this point, we have almost 100 people that are in the Hall of Fame. So they were chosen. And then the last two of the 12, sort of like the 12 apostles, I chose Frank Trejo and Ed Parker. And I chose Mr. Parker for a posthumous induction, which would be my choice. And then Trejo, because he was the inspiration for it. And if you look at it, you'll see all the ones. Joe Dimmick, one of the greats. He was Mr. Parker's, one of Mr. Parker's early black belts. You got Paul Dye. Paul Dye sat on Frank Trejo's test in 1975. You have, what else we got on there? Let's look at the list. Boy, you stay there. I got to get my glasses on.
Mr. Furuya?
Yeah, Jim Faria, Rich Hale, Gil Hibben, the famous master of knife making. For his thesis, he created the Parker knife in 1968. You had Roger Meadows. Obviously, I spoke about him. Ed Parker Sr. You got Michael Robert Pick. I told you about him.
Yes.
Richard Planis. Richard's one of the great minds in Kempo. He was one of the ones that early architects of all Mr. Parker's forms and techniques. They would make sure they comply. Danny Ridardi, Mr. Parker's vice president of the IKKA for many, many years. You have Diane Tanaka. We always wanted to have a woman inducted in the Hall of Fame because it would reflect the versatility of our system. It did not just limit itself to big guys that could punch somebody. You could show that this could work clearly. And then you have obviously Frank Trejo and Mr. Bob White, one of the great, great competitors. And actually, he is more than that. He's a true civic leader that gives back to the martial arts. And I'm really honored to know Bob White. He's fought cancer several times. He understands the fragility of life. And we have that. So the Hall of Fame was created then. And then those guys, those nominees got to pick the next year. And every year subsequent. So 2015 picked down 2016, 2016 picked 17, 18, 19, up until now 22. And we have our members that are the Hall of Fame are worldwide. So if you look at the patch I wear here, this patch is simple, okay? It is based on the Ed Parker original patch. If you look at inside is the black lining. That's the way Mr. Parker designed, but the gold means it's the gold standard. The outside red tips represents the Chinese influence because we were originally Chinese Kempo. Then we became Ed Parker's American Kenpo. Finally, the globe represents that we're an international organization that represents Kempos around the world, Law of the Fist. Mind you, we have over 14 different systems, styles, or disciplines that are represented from American Kenpo, Tracy, Kaji Kenpo, Shaolin, Hawaiian, Lima Lama, BKF, IKCA, JKD. They're all there. Kempo's influence is great. It's worldwide. The Tiger and the Dragon, obviously, those are original compositions that I put in there. You have some of the Chinese lettering on there. And then finally, the K at the bottom just remembers Kenpo Karate. That's all that means, which is sort of redundant when you think about it. Kenpo Karate, Law of the Fist. But it's taken from that. And it's not limited just to KEN. We also have KEM, okay? Because our systems all from the different islands and the different countries. So it's all there, from Mitose to Chow to Parker, Urasaki, Imperato. you know, you name it, they're pretty much there. Even the influences of Bruce Lee. This year, really honored. We're going to have 20 people inducted. Rick Avery from the Hollywood era. I mean, this guy's amazing. One of the greats in the stunts. You have Anthony DeLongis, a great master from teaching people how to use the whips, like Michelle Pfeiffer and Batman, Harrison Ford, and whatnot. They're going to be there. He's going to actually do a demo this year, teaching you how to use famous weapons. And then this year's one of the posthumous inductees this year is Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee will get due rights because he was a shining, rising star. He was his own person, like Edmund Jr. is his own person. Okay, their talents, you know, have gone on. They have a heavy burden being the last name of Parker or Lee, but their parents gave them the right teaching. And so Brandon will be there, and Jeff Amata will be accepting on behalf of him. Beautiful. And beginning of a 3-year program where we're going to be the entertainment in the martial arts. Next year, we'll celebrate 50th anniversary of Enter the Dragon, and then we'll finally do the IKC in 2024. I'm saddened that our friend Bob White, who, you know, just befriended me and my son, he was so amazing. 82-year-old man, brought me into his house, spent 3.5 hours with my son, 7-year-old. And if you know 7-year-olds, they got energy like unbelievable. I was tired after an hour. Bob kept on going with him, and they hung out, and they became the best of buddies. And Mr. Wall, God rest him, he passed away in February. I heard. You know, he's an amazing person, and I'm thankful for his friendship.
Beautiful. Julie says, I have a nominee, my instructor, Daryl Liner.
Let me explain that Daryl probably is a very qualified individual. I suggest you do this, Julie. You contact, this is how it works, the process. Hall of Fame members, you got to be a Hall of Fame member first.
Okay.
You discuss that with your fellow Hall of Fame members, and then you get 2 of you to agree, and then you submit that, and then you ask the say if they said, Frank, would you accept a nomination as a candidate for the Hall of Fame? And if you say yes, you got to be here. The only exception if it's a posthumous induction. We understand that. Then the family usually represents the nominee, but you have to be present for it. And then that's it. Come and celebrate with us. And we do, usually the process is done. Nominations take the first week of January through the 1st of February, and then we announce it in March who is going to be this year's nominees. And it always takes place now in Las Vegas, which everybody loves, and you can get here anywhere. We have all.
And if somebody wants to become a member of the Hall of Fame, how do you do that?
You need to talk to one of the Hall of Fame members.
Okay.
Just go look at the list. Okay. And if you know those people, say, hey, you know, I know there's a process, and I'd be honored and humbled if at some point you would consider. You know, it's sort of like asking for a promotion. You sort of don't want to do it, but certain people automatically come to mind. And every time I have a Hall of Fame member, I tell them, now the burden is on you to choose somebody that represents the body. And we've had people that it's not favoritism. Some people just don't like each other, but they still nominate them. We have that. So it's really that. And you need a couple people to do it. And like I said, you can't buy into it and whatnot, but it's an amazing family. You got the greatest, I call it the gold standard, and it's a celebration of greatness. And it's really heartwarming to see Donnie Williams get up there, or Cecil Peoples, or to have our women like Barbara White or Shalene Herring or, Terry Hicks. You got all these people. We have a lot of women, Diane Tanaka. I mean, you know, and we have them globally. We have McNamee coming in from Ireland. We have all of our friends down from South America that are coming up this year.
Wow. Cool. Let's see. One more comment here. Mr. Durgan says, much love and respect, gentlemen. Master Casey is truly a great storyteller, to be sure. I look forward to the time. Thank you, sir. Full salute, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. I will contact you, sir. Okay, so we are definitely out of time, sir.
Thank you, Frank. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm honored and humbled. Thank you to all of the viewers. You're amazing. A talented man. Support him, because if we communicate, you can find out that really the only thing that separates us is distance. We still are Kempoist. and we carry that brand with us. And I'm honored to represent the Hall of Fame. By the way, I'm not a member of the Hall of Fame. I'm not. I'm just the guy that runs it. And I love being here to see all these great martial arts come together. And I'm honored and humbled to be here. I hope to see other fellow Kempoists come on. There's a lot out there. There's some great groups. There's some great storytellers. There's some young, inspiring martial artists, and everyone's welcome to join into what we do here.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for being an inspiration for us, the next generation of instructors and practitioners and all that. And thank you for being on the show. This was amazing. Time flies when you're having a good time.
Or if you talk too much.
Oh, I didn't get to talk that much, but I had a great time. Thank you so much. It was yes, amazing. I agree with Mr. Durgan. You're a great storyteller. Thank you, sir, for sharing. And those are important stories for people to know, because they should be kept. And it's nice to be able to appreciate what you have to share. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome. There's so much there. It's like Kempo. There's so much more there. You're just scratching the surface. And every one of us have a story. Thank you, Alfred. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Chavez, thank you for the great.
Thank you, Edward.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for watching this. I'll see you next week with more of this. And thank you again, sir. It was an honor.
God bless you. You have a great week.
You take care, sir. Oh, bye-bye.